Hello and welcome back to the Wee Larder channel. Today I'm going to be making a delicious pear mincemeat and caramel tart, and I'm going to be pairing this warm pudding off with Mackies of Scotland's real dairy traditional ice cream, and the ice cream is one of our favourites. It's so good for warm puddings, and this pudding is just perfect to have around Christmas and New Year. This recipe is actually made in collaboration with Mackies of Scotland, and if you watched my previous video you might have heard me say that they are a family run business in the northeast of Scotland, and they actually have a whole range of delicious real dairy ice creams. They also do chocolate bars, and for those that were asking me, you can get them in Asda, Sainsbury's and the Co-op. And if you can't find them in there, then please feel free to check out the link for their website down below, and I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction. So a couple of you were asking where to buy the chocolate bars, and they are so good. So I definitely would recommend, if you haven't heard of their chocolate, to go and check it out. And as I say, they also have a good range of crisps as well, and they are really nice for dipping into those dips that you get in the supermarket at this time of year. I love a good bag of Mackies crisps on Hogmany. So we always have a tub or two of this ice cream in our freezer, and we literally grew up eating Mackies ice cream. It was just something that we always had when we were out and about as kids, and we always have some in the freezer for our kids. So we make warm puddings in the winter and pair off with some of their ice cream, and we also have cold desserts in the summertime as well, and make things like banana splits and stuff. They're just so good. And Mackies have also got a really cool ice cream parlour in Aberdeen as well, so if you've not been, I would really recommend checking it out. They have a whole range of ice creams and desserts in there, and it's a really nice place to visit if you're visiting Aberdeen for some shopping. So we love taking the kids in there for a little treat as well, and it is quite a new building as well, and it's just a nice place to go. It's really fun and family friendly as well. So as always, you can get this recipe over on my website, sanjumilton.com, and you can print it out from there as well if you need to. So let's get started on our pear mincemeat and caramel tart. So for this recipe you're going to need ingredients for the pastry, the caramel sauce, the pear tart and the toppings. So for the pastry itself you're going to need 225 grams of plain flour, a pinch of salt, 50 grams of lard, 50 grams of soft butter, cold water, 25 grams of sugar, and for the caramel sauce you're going to need 100 ml of double cream, 2 tablespoons of golden syrup, 200 grams of brown sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla and 40 grams of butter. For the pear tart, you're going to need 175 grams of self-raising flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 50 grams caster sugar, 50 grams of soft butter, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and the rind of 1 lemon, 100 ml of whole milk, 414 grams of mincemeat. It sounds very precise, but it's actually just one large jar, so as long as it's around about 400 grams, that's fine. 2 large pears, 50 grams of cubed butter and granulated sugar for the topping. And for the topping, once your tart is cooked as well, you're definitely going to need some Mackies traditional ice cream and some edible glitter sprinkle. So to start this recipe, we're going to start with our pastry because we're going to bake that in the oven first. And we're just going to add our flour into our bowl here, and we're going to start by sieving the flour as well. So we just want to make sure all the lumps are out of the flour. So it does take a few minutes, but it's definitely worth the effort doing this. So I like to use a whisk as well because I find it gets it through the sieve really well. So once we've done all that, we're then going to add in a pinch of salt, and we're going to add in our lard and our butter. And our sugar as well. So what we're going to do is just rub the fats into the flour and sugar, and we're just going to keep doing that until we get a breadcrumb type consistency like this. So it does take a few minutes, but just stick with it and you will get this consistency. And then we're going to add in our cold water, so we just add a really little bit in at a time, and we're just going to form a dough out of that. So we're going to knead it ever so slightly, and you should have something smooth and elasticy like this. So we're now going to grease up our pastry tin now, and this is a really good tin because it has a pop out bottom as well. If you don't have one of those pop out bases, then you can actually get some greaseproof paper and use that instead, and you'll be able to lift the tart neatly out of the oven once it's finished. So you could put some greaseproof layer on the bottom as well. I like to use the pop-out base because it does make it a lot easier when you're removing the tart from the tin. So we're just going to add some flour onto our chopping board here, and we're going to roll out our pastry dough. And I've just started off by covering the ball of pastry dough in flour, and then we're just going to roll it out to the right size. So if you just use your tin as well, just to make sure you are getting the right size, we want it to be large enough so that it covers the whole base of the tin and goes right up the sides. So we're just going to place that in there and then just mold that into the corners, and then we're just going to use a knife and our fingers to neaten the pastry down the edges and just carve off all the extra. So we're just going to pop our greaseproof paper in there and add in our dried beans. I'm actually just using some old black beans that I had in the cupboard. I've been using these for over a year now for baking my pastry, so any old beans will do. You can buy specific baking beans, but to save yourself money, some old beans from the cupboard will be fine. So we're going to bake that in the oven with the beans inside at 180 for 20 minutes. So while that's baking, we're going to add the flour into our bowl to start making our sponge mix. And we've added in the baking powder as well, and we're just going to add in our sugar now. So what we want to do is just mix through our dry ingredients so that they are mixed well together. So we just add in our vanilla now, our butter, and we're going to grate our lemon rind into the bowl as well. It's quite important to use organic lemons as well if you're doing this. And I'm adding in the egg now. And we're just going to whisk that up. This is actually also a breadcrumb type consistency once we're finished whisking this up, before we add in the wet ingredients. So we're just going to pour in our milk now. And if you just pour all of it in, and then we're going to whisk up our milk with our other ingredients, and just keep whisking until you have a cake-like consistency. So it does take a minute or so, but just keep at it. And you want it nice and smooth as well. Okay, so our tart is out of the oven now. What we're going to do is remove our beans first of all. So if you very carefully take the edges of the greaseproof paper and tie up the end a little bit with your hand, and then slide them all back into your glass jar and save them for the next time. So that is our pre-baked pastry dough, and it does make a difference if you pre-bake it. It just stops the pastry from being soggy on the bottom. So we're just going to add in all of our cake mix, or sponge mix rather, into the bottom of the pastry dish now. Now this recipe does have quite a few steps, but it is actually a really, really easy recipe to make. And next we're just going to dot our mincemeat over the top. So if you just add a little bit in at a time and just spread over the top, it is quite tricky and it's quite sticky as well. So just be careful that you kind of keep it to the top level. It will sink a little bit in the cooking, but that's completely fine. So once you have your whole jar on there, we're then going to add on our pear slices. So if you just pop them on the top all pretty like this, round in a circle. And we're going to dot that with our butter for the top and sprinkle it with our granulated sugar. And we're just going to bake that in the oven for 35 minutes at 180 again. So it should look something like this after the baking time. And I love this recipe, it's just so pretty and delicious, and it's so Christmassy as well. So while that is cooling slightly, we're going to make our caramel sauce for the top. So we're going to add in our cream, our golden syrup, and this stuff is just so sticky. So we're going to add in a couple of tablespoons of that. And we're going to add in our brown sugar as well. And our vanilla and our butter. So once all the ingredients are in for the caramel sauce, we're then going to bring up the heat to a medium heat and start whisking. And we just want this all to melt together first of all. So this sauce does take a couple of minutes to make as well. But again, it's quite easy to make. You just really have to keep an eye on it. So once everything is really well melted together, we're going to bring it to a boil. And we want to boil the sauce for about 3 minutes. So a bubbling boil, and then we're going to pour it into the jug and leave it to cool slightly before serving. So it should be nice and thick, and you want to boil it for 3 minutes to dissolve the sugar. So when your tart has cooled slightly, I'm still using oven gloves because it's still quite hot. We want to pop out the base of the tart and place it down. And you can just start by slicing it up. So I like to slice it up when it is warm, not boiling hot. I do find that it's easier to do when it's not so hot. And also as well, if you're serving ice cream on it, you don't want it to completely melt over everything. So it's nice just to leave it to cool for a few minutes. And you can see inside the slice here, we have our mincemeat layer as well. And some of the raisins and things do sink to the bottom, but that is totally fine. So we are going to serve up this delicious tart with some of the Mackies of Scotland real dairy ice cream. And it is so good on this tart. It's really nice. Another trick is as well to use a spoon which has been dipped into boiling hot water, and it just really helps to get the perfect ice cream ball out of the ice cream tub. So we're going to pop that on there, and then we are going to drizzle over our caramel sauce. And it's so delicious. And we're going to add a little extra on the top there as well. And of course, we're going to finish off with our glitter sprinkle, which is just so sparkly and lovely at this time of year. And that's our delicious pear, mincemeat and caramel tart served with Mackies of Scotland traditional ice cream. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed making your delicious pear, mincemeat and caramel tart. I'm sure you'll agree it works really well with the Mackies traditional ice cream as well. The two are such a delicious combination, and it's a really good pudding to have around Christmas or the Hogmany sort of time as well. As I mentioned before, you can get the recipe over on my website, and if you're on Instagram as well and you took a picture of this delicious pudding, then please feel free to tag me in a photo. And Mackies also have a few of their chocolate bar selections to give away, so if you tag me and Mackies in a photo, then you might be in with a chance of winning a selection box of chocolates as well. If you're new here, then please feel free to subscribe, and if you click that little bell next to it, you'll be notified of my new videos coming out in the future. So take care and have a lovely Christmas, everybody. Lots of love. Bye bye.